Do you wish you could get virtual attendees to turn their cameras on? Is engagement the number one issue on your virtual meetings? Do you want your meeting to be the most engaging virtual meeting? Well, welcome to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. In this podcast, we'll talk to the top people around the world in virtual meetings and give you, the listener, the best ideas to host engaging virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Now, let's welcome your host, the author of the #1 Amazon hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings, John Chen. Hey there, this is John Chen. And you have just tuned in to the one and only Engagement Show. Let's bring in my co-host, the one and only from Engagement Unlimited, hailing from the great country of Canada. Let's bring in Roger Haskett.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Hey, John. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Look at the beautiful pink tie there, Roger. That was some research. I think there was in sales, if you wore a pink tie, you would make more sales. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I'm wearing this in honor of my daughter, whose favorite color is pink. And when I walked out and I said, "Does this look good?" she went, "Thumbs up." So I was like, I'll wear it.
Give the kids all the power. Speaking of give all the power, I'm about to hit road trip, Roger. I got 3 things coming up. I'm going to, speaking of youth, I will be at GYLS, known as Global Youth Leadership Summit, Tony Robbins Youth Camp with over 420 people, youth from around the world. And I get to lead a scavenger hunt as well as be a coach throughout the week. That's coming up. Then right after that is Orlando's National Speakers Association's yearly conference called Influence is going to be at Orlando. And so I'm actually just going there not to speak, actually to be spoken to by some of the top speakers, about 1,400 in the world. And my last one is I'm going to be
Whoa, wait. You got it. So tell us about the award that you have got from the National
Thank you for that. Yeah, Roger, in my local chapter, the National NSA, or National Speakers Association's Northwest, I just found out that I was I won Member of the Year this year, Roger. Thank you so much.
That's awesome, John. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. And, part of that is being engaged. While I've been a member off and on for a while, this year I decided to engage more. And so I've helped the chapter record all of their in-person meetings. I've been able to help actually arrange the dinner at Influence. And so we've actually invited speakers from other chapters to come join us. And so, yeah, I got the Member of the Year award for that.
Let me just chime in there. So my experience with all membership groups like NSA, CAPS, ILEA, MPI, etc., I've joined them and not done anything, and then I've joined them and engaged, and it's a night and day situation. I mean, my company's called Engagement Unlimited for a reason, because the moment you go to those organizations, those associations, and engage, like you actually take your energy and put it into the room, magical, not miraculous things happen, but amazing things happen. Like, I went and I started to engage years ago, and I'm sitting at a table, and the person next to me goes, "Oh, I just heard what you do. Can you come and do this project that's worth $10,000 at my company?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess this is what engagement does."
The more you give, the more you get is really the principle around all associations. And so if you have joined an association, you feel like you're not getting what you want out of it, go volunteer. Go volunteer is like the easiest way to figure out, and by that volunteer, you figure out that you do all the networking, and people learn to trust you. What I love to say about associations, that's the try before you buy model, which is if you volunteer and people notice how you do your work, they will come back to you and saying, "I would now like to pay you for that." So that's the #1 thing.
100%. Okay, John, what's your last thing?
The last one is I'm going to be in Dallas, Texas, 3rd week of July here. I'm going to be speaking at the NACE, or National Association of Catering Executives. Their national conference is going to be in Dallas this year. I've been invited to speak about engaging meetings, and I've also got invited to speak on the Asian American Pacific Islander Caucus. They have a panel there in a group that's been convening inside of NACE, and I'm excited to connect further with that group while I'm in Dallas, Texas. So those are my 3 trips that I've got going on. What do you got coming up, Roger?
I've got some stuff here. We're doing mud pie kitchens for kids. It's our give back activity. We're doing a couple one next week and a couple the following week or so. Those we love them because they're hero energy and they are so amazing. We get the most amazing testimonials from them because it allows people to bond and interact in ways that they. We've had people say, like, I've been part of this organization for 5 years, but it wasn't until this event that happened over 2.5 hours that I actually felt like I belonged and that I actually got to know people. So we love doing those things. And we got a bunch of other things happening as well. Let's talk about our theme.
Our theme for today is what we call psychological safety. Psychological safety. And the real key part around this, well, it's defined as this. It's defined as that you feel safe to take a risk in front of your peers or your group or other people. And to me, and actually to Roger and I, we both strongly believe that psychological safety is one of the invisible things that we create in our presence or in this box, right, when we're on virtual, ever since you met us. And that's one of the keys to engagement. You can't get engagement without psychological safety. So Roger's going to talk a little bit about where the research that we both based upon. We'll show you some of those results as we go along.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. So, there's a bunch of stuff that's been coming out about psychological safety, but the most important element that we're finding for engaged teams, and engaged teams are powerful teams, right? This is what we're finding out. A team that talks to each other, looks at each other, that connects to each other there's so much power there. So, the most important element for engaged teams is not pay. It doesn't matter. We've found this. You pay people more. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're more engaged. And it's not play. This breaks my heart a little. Like, I have a talk, the power of play. Play is so powerful, but it's not just play. You can't just create engaged teams by playing all the time. Actually, the way you create the best teams is through psychological safety. And it's just us saying this. So let's look at Google. So Google has a project called Project Aristotle. And they're like, this is what they found. They looked at all of these different teams and they said the most successful teams were those where members felt safe to share their ideas and opinions here's the key, without fear of judgment. So this is what you're looking to create in all of your encounters with people, whether it's on your specific team, whether it's at home, whether it's with your friends. You want to create an environment where people are able to be themselves. The more that they're able to be themselves, the more power there is in the room. So John, should we talk about some tips about how to get to psychological safety, like how to create it?
Well, let me share my other piece here of research that this is the 5 things that they really came around that lead up to psychological safety. And to me, one of the key parts of this research is that you can take vastly different teams. You can take a team that's highly structured, right, makes milestones and makes their deadlines, right, they ship on time. And that's a high-performing team. The other kind of team, though, it looks like they're a little crazy, look like they miss deadlines, right? It looks like they're going to crash in a wall, and they ship a miracle at the end. And that also is a high-performing team. And so inside of that, there are 5 things that are on here, right? Impact, right? People think that their work matters. By the way, I tell managers all the time, if you're a manager, you're managing a team, what you need to do right now is write these 5 things down, because if you don't have these 5 things in your team, you're missing what Google's research said. Number 4, meaning that the what you're doing is personally important to team members. Number 3, structure and clarity, right? You have to have goals and roles inside of there so people know what they're doing. Number 2, dependability, that team members get things done on time, meet the high bar of excellence. And then the number 1, which to me was a big surprise, was this psychological safety, all right? And because you think it could be pay, it could be, right, machinery, it could be all the leader, it could be even the composition of the team. Turns out it's none of these things, right? You really need psychological safety. And now Roger and I will share some ways that we create that.
I love it. And when I talk about impact in my Age of Engage talk, because one of the things that is we miss in our world, we had one of our talk shows was about impact, because one of the things that we miss is how our impact is actually affecting the world. And we work behind screens and we work far away from often where our impact is felt. And so when you draw a straight line between what your staff, what your team is doing and the impact it has on the world, all of a sudden people's engagement increases. Because when you start to see that humans are meant to make an impact, the most important way for us to get boosts in our life is when we help others. our system is based on impact. So I love it when you talk about impact, John. Okay, so psychological safety. So this is Google as well. We're going to go through 3 examples from Google. So the first is lead by example. This is so obvious. It seems crazy that we have to write it down, but we have to. You have to model psychological safety, which means that you have to show yourself being vulnerable. You have to show yourself giving ideas that might not be the best idea. And as a matter of fact, no idea should be a good idea. Every idea should just be an idea because good and bad ideas come out of everywhere. So lead by example, right? John, anything to say about that before I go on?
Well, in the lead by example, one of the things is to start as early as possible for that. So one of the things that I have is think about your opener for when you either in your team meeting or your presentation or whatever it is, that if you can create that psychological safety, you have to make it at the beginning, because what happens is if you don't, you actually destroy all the psychological safety, and then you're playing catch up the whole piece. So it turns out here that people just recently asked me what are the best openers in a meeting, and now after 3 years, I really think that the easiest one is actually the best opener, right? Instead of it being all complicated. And so it could be as simple as, hey, where are you calling in from, right? And so here's the reason why it's so valuable. Because number one, people are like, oh, okay, well, at least I know the answer to this. And then number two, they most likely interact, let's say I'm virtual, by chat, right? Or by opening up the mic and saying something. Those 2 things there, you'll see a vast difference in the virtual meetings where there's no cameras on and there is no, interactivity versus this first piece, like just getting them to interact, whether it's a chat or whether they turn their camera on or whether they talk. That thing is what starts the psychological safety of the saying, I felt safe enough to say where I'm from, Seattle, Washington, and now that opens the train to everything else.
Totally. Oh, I'm so, you got me all jittery because I'm just going, yes, yes. So talking about opening. So this is something that we figured out a couple of years ago, like 5-10 years ago. The way you set up the room is the opening in a live event. So when you walk in the room and you see all these like chairs facing forward with, you're like, okay, this is not a psychologically safe system for me. For me, this is all about the person on stage. It's not about me at all. Versus walking into a room where you see all different types of chairs and all different types of sitting. You can sit at the front, or you can sit at high tables at the back, or you can sit at couches. And all of a sudden you walk into that room and you look and people are talking to each other. They're like, when you walk into a room where people are sitting in chairs facing the front, almost no one is talking to each other. They are on their phones. They are not interacting and engaging with the room. So I'm taking a long time to say this, but the opener of just how you set up the room is also a way of creating psychological safety. Okay. Yeah. Number 2, sorry, John. Number 2, encourage positive feedback. So, or constructive feedback. So there's a stat that we have that shows if you give people negative feedback, like, where you go, hey, you didn't do this right. You should do it better. 30% of people learn that way. Like you go, hey, it's not good what you're doing. But 90% of people learn when you lead by positive. When you say, hey, what you did right was this. You want to do more of this sort of stuff. And 90% of people respond because we respond to constructive feedback, not feedback that tears us down, but feedback that lifts us up. That's how you create psychological safety.
Yeah, if you've ever taken or studied appreciative inquiry, right? That's a line of like consulting that they have that really can make a difference. They gave this great example. They have 2 groups of bowlers, right? And they take video of all the bowling. In the first group, they show everything, they clip the video and show everything they did wrong and then tell them what to do right. And that group improved by 10%, right? But the second group, all they did was clip everything they did right.
Yeah.
Even if it was just one frame.
Yeah.
Right? And they showed them that group increased by 100, the average of 100 pins. And so what I love to tell people in psychological safety is to acknowledge or to thank, right, the people who are doing things. So for instance, if you are the person who chatted, Roger, and you said, hey, I'm from Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, BC, right? I would say, oh my gosh, Roger, thank you so much for the chat. I love Vancouver, BC. So those small pieces of you acknowledging people is that constructive feedback saying, I love what you did and I want more of it. And that's how you get more. This is how you build the engagement momentum inside of a program as opposed to like having people not say anything.
Yeah, I love it. And there's so many different ways of giving constructive feedback. Like on virtual, you want to give it like visually. Like you want to be like doing things like this and raise the roof and jazz hand. Like you want to visually show stuff. But when I'm live, yeah, total those things exactly. When I'm live, I use my voice all the time in my body. Like you lean into people, like, and you go, oh, that's interesting. Or you laugh in a good way. You're like, oh my God. Like someone says, I come from Moose Jaw, a wildlife capital of Canada. And you laugh and you go, yeah, that's a good line. Like, so there's so many different ways of showing people that they're appreciated, that what they are contributing is valuable. Okay, let's move on to the last one because we only have so much time. This one is a crazy one. You need to celebrate mistakes. And what that means is that you need to focus on learning from what the situation taught you rather than placing blame. So this is like the bowling example you just gave. There's so many, rather than like, this is what, so-and-so did this wrong, and that's why there was a problem. Instead, you go, well, we had a problem here. What are we going to do about that to fix it for the next time? Like, how can we all come to, right? So mistakes are not ignored, and they're not like made mocked or like belittled. Instead, mistakes are brought up and go, well, we're learning something here. This is a learning opportunity, and we're all going to get better from this learning. So it's awesome that it happened.
So what that leads to, all of these things lead to positive results. When you create psychological safety, you can get positive results. Just talking about this celebrate mistakes. So in our recent meeting, we had a meeting where the server that was serving all the virtual audience went down. It was like catastrophic, right? Nobody could get into all their sessions that they paid really good money for, that they were actually really excited for. And so we built a Google Doc and just shared the link to it to hundreds of people so they could get the links for the days, because Zoom was still running, but the server wasn't running. So we did that. And what happened on that mistake is that one of my producers noticed that everybody, there was like over 100 people in this document, right? So they could see it. And she goes, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we make a virtual guest book? So you create it like a Google Slides, and then you tell everyone to write, either like draw their name or like put a graphic or their logo, and then write some text that says they were here. And so we actually shared that out, and we had like over 150 people sign the virtual guest book. And then we showed the pages right at the end of it. And what was great of it, it was another way to create connection between the in-person and virtual, because the in-person people were watching this big screen and going, hey, I know this person, I know this person, I know this person. So those are the results. One other result that I really love is that there was a gentleman who was in one of our classes, and he came in and he logged in early. So he was 15 minutes early because he didn't want to be late. And so that was great. And we were doing what we normally do, the connection before content. We're talking with people, right? We're doing all sorts of things. And also, if you look at my name tag, of course, I have pronouns on my name. So I had he, him. And what happened is that 5 minutes before the class started, this gentleman came up and decided to say something. And he said, John, I just want to let you know that I've been in a lot of meetings, right? Virtual meetings. And I said, this is the virtual meeting that I feel the most safe in, and it hasn't even started.
Yeah. So these are the results. So this is what you get when you bring professionals who think about these things to your event. This is one of the things that I and all of the people that contribute to Engagement Unlimited, this is what they bring. And I also wanted to say on a side note, this mistakes, I teach actors. I used to teach actors. And one of the things that I taught people was that, like, one of Roger's rules was mistakes can be golden, because when you're in an audition or when you're doing a scene and something goes wrong, you can't sweat anymore. Like you sweat from it. Like it's like a disaster. And when you teach them that out of mistakes, you can often find the goal. You can find the thing that actually makes the scene riveting. And it just changes the way you think about mistakes, which is exactly what we need to do to create psychological safety. All right.
One of the last results that I really love now is like, well, of course, we have this problem on virtual meetings that when everybody talks, we can't understand everything. And I said, but one of the keys now is that I actually look for when a meeting kind of loses control, where everyone's talking at the same time, because what it tells me is that there's so much psychological safety that everyone feels okay talking all at the same time, right? And so, this is like for Roger and I, when we're facilitators, one of the things we love is when we lose control of the room, because that means that we actually can step out of the way and let them have this really deep or engaging or whatever conversation, because they're all in it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the other results you should look for, which is everyone actually talking all at the same time. You should take it as a win and not a fail. All right. Right. That people feel safe enough to do this.
So, John, you're living my life right now. You're talking to my life. Because, the last talk I did, I do this at all talks by the, what I'll do is I'll say, everyone, like, get up and talk to someone you don't know, the person you know the least around you, talk for 2 minutes about what you're learning. And what happens is at the beginning, there's a little bit of noise and people are talking, and then it gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And then I have to do this thing, like, if you hear this, clap once. I have to do it like 4 times before everyone quiets. And then I say, hey, this is the mark of an engaged room. Because when I said earlier, hey, everyone pay attention to me before I let you talk, you all listened immediately because you're well behaved. But the moment I let you talk, all of a sudden engagement filled your body, like your engagement. And you were like, hey, that guy at the front, I don't even know that guy. What I'm talking about right now with this person who I don't even know, that is more important than this guy at the front trying to get my attention. And instead of that being a problem, that is exactly what you want. Like when rooms are noisy and I'm having trouble getting it, and the CEO looks at me worried, I look back at him and I'm like, this is the best I could ever want. For them to be so full of power that they don't think they need to listen to me anymore. And I have to force their attention back, right?
So in this case here, for all of you who are listening here, think about, right? Is your meeting safe or not? Whether it's in person, virtual, hybrid, whatever it is, right? Is it safe or not? If it isn't, what do you need to do? And if it is, what can you do to make it feel more safe, right? I'll just close with this last piece, and Roger can close with one other piece that he has. Patrick Lencioni, right? We all know 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He sold 6 million books. He still has this exercise to this date, still works. And I tested it over the last 3 years. It sounds simple, but I can tell you that it works. So what all you do is you get every single person in a small group to share a challenging childhood story. And so, like, last time we had this, a gentleman actually came out, and he's like a VP in a company, but he said he wanted to be on the baseball team and they didn't pick him. And he came back and he said, I was kind of pissed. I was ready to bail and leave, right? And then he goes, no, I really like baseball. So he goes, I'll come in as the water boy and the bat boy, right? And just, because I just want to be close to the game. And then, of course, what happens? Their star player gets injured 3 months after that. And they call him up from being a bat boy to getting in there. And he goes, that story alone, said everything about why he's so persistent in getting the results that he does for the company. So if you want to make more engagement, see if you can put that exercise into your next meeting. Roger?
Yeah. So I just think that, psychological safety is one of these ideas that is rising to the surface now, because we are thinking differently about teams. We're not thinking about teams as not that they shouldn't be hierarchical. There should be leaders, et cetera, but it's less about, I'm telling you what to do. And it's far more about the power in the room. I think of this as hive mind. Psychological safety creates hive mind. And a hive mind is where all of us are smarter than any one of us. And you don't create a hive mind if everyone's scared to contribute. So it's Google is saying this, so much research is saying, thinking about psychological safety is well worth your time. The results will make it worth your time.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, Roger. If you want to see demonstrations of psychological safety, in the links for this meeting is a chance to meet Roger or myself, and we're both willing to meet with you for a half hour. And the best part is then have this filter on you going, what are these two doing to create psychological safety, even in the first meeting that we ever meet you. So make sure and click those links and figure out how to bring more psychological safety into your meeting. Roger, as always, thank you so much. We'll be back next month with an amazing topic. If you want to give us a suggestion, you want to know about something about engagement, go ahead and hit in the comments a question you'd like us to answer, and we may answer your question next month. Thanks again, Roger.
Thanks, John. You're awesome.
There we go. Oh, he's doing more of the psychological safety that we want, and of course, in doing an acknowledgement. All right. Again, I'm John Chen here on behalf of myself and the amazing Roger Haskett. Tune in here next month for the Engagement Show. We will see you next time.
This is John Chen, the author of the Amazon #1 hot new release, Engaging Virtual Meetings. I personally want to say thank you for listening to the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. It is my passion to help you eliminate bad virtual meetings. Make sure that you click subscribe so that you can get the latest episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with all of the latest ideas. Hey, I want to meet you. If you want to talk about a virtual meeting challenge, or if you want to be the next guest on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, just go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet. That's engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, MEET, and find your best time to meet up. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging with you online.